Hello folks, welcome back to Medieval Mondays. Today we're going to be talking about George Manikaes, the Fearsome George, as I called him. He was a fearsome warrior who lived in the 11th century inside of the Byzantine Empire, basically the late Roman Empire inside the East. But this is not going to be the first episode in his series. I'm going to talk a little bit about the mind of Maniakes, basically the mind of a warrior. So let's hop into it. Now, when we talk about warriors from the past, one thing that we often like to do is try to see things through their eyes, try to think like they were thinking. Now, that's hard to do because we don't know a whole lot about his young life. However, I believe I'm going to do a little bit of detective work here. From the later success that he had in life, you can have a good idea of at least how he thought or what he was taught to think. Now, a lot of people try to talk about the Byzantine Empire and say it was nowhere near as good as the Roman Empire was when people like Julius Caesar or Sulla were in charge of it. Now, that's a debate for another day that could go on forever and probably will never be settled. I want to look at George Manikaes from the soldier's point of view. You know, not his personality, not his likes, dislikes, not whether he was a good guy or a bad guy. Just look at it from the soldier's point of view. And I've talked to many soldiers about this. I myself am a military brat. And study a lot of study military history exclusively. And did so for a number of years. And Maniakes, this guy is not given as much credit for how smart he was. When I announced I was going to do a series on him, some people said I didn't even know who he was. So please do so I can find out more information about him. And I'm just going to take a few anecdotes from his life. There's some spoilers ahead, so spoiler alert if you want to watch the series in order and see his life unfold. Don't watch this video yet. But take a few anecdotes from his life and see if we can draw the type of soldier he was from that. So first of all, he was trained. You know, warriors are raised in a warrior culture. They're brought up to fight. They train with their friends and they live for this type of warfare. Kind of like you could look at the Aztec or you could look at the Zulus during the period when Shaka was in charge, or the Mongols. Their lifestyle resembled warfare very closely, hunting and roaming, constantly on the move, you know, constantly being fit and elite to fight, constantly drawing your bow. I also talk about the Welsh in the sense. But the soldier is different, you know, because the soldier is a part of society, part of what people call civilization, part of advancement. You don't have warriors who do the fighting. You have soldiers who do the fighting, and someone else born here could be a blacksmith, or could be a carpenter, or could be a fisherman. He doesn't have to fight in order to have his man status inside of this nation rather than this tribe. You know, warfare is considered like tribal. Warriorhood is considered a tribal type thing. And the really cool thing the way I look at it is we had the Normans who were basically evolving from this Viking culture into something different when they became Normans, and you had Maniakes there, who is this old-fashioned type of soldier, in my opinion, in the Roman Empire. And you had all three of these different cultures mixing together, and Maniakes was able to study both. Now, one thing that I like to give credit to him for is the way he was trained. The Romans wrote a whole lot about what happened. So he'd have had plenty of research to study up on what had happened in the past. Plenty of battles to research on, cavalry to research on, cataphracts, the German cavalry. He was able to attain all that knowledge from the history of it. And good generals don't lie about their exploits. They don't. Not to their soldiers who they need to trust or who they need to be trusted by. Not if they want to succeed. Because if you exaggerate, you say I took 100 soldiers and I beat 1,000, and you're lying about that exploit, what you're doing is you're building up a hype train that's eventually going to be derailed, and you're going to be destroyed when you actually face true opposition. And Maniakes also, so that's the first thing. I think he was a very realistic general. He didn't exaggerate his exploits, but he did know what he was capable of doing. The second thing is that he was humble when he would ask for allies. And this is why I say there's a bit of a spoiler alert. At one point, he went to war with Constantinople, and he went to the Normans and asked them for their assistance in the war he was doing. Now, this is after he had just fought them a few times, but he knew what the Normans were capable of, so he was willing to go and say, hey, you guys are mercenaries. You guys, fight for the highest bidder. Here's my bid. Are you going to come fight for me? So he knew if he needed somebody's assistance, he wasn't scared to ask for it, and he was not afraid to humble himself in doing so. And this is somebody he'd actually defeated before, so smart, basically. And then on top of that, he was good though at creating enemies. That's the downside to the attitude he had. He was good at creating enemies with powerful people in court. And I think that's because he didn't like to play games. He was a very real person. If you could look at a good example would be kind of like Nate and Nick Diaz, the Diaz brothers, in the combat community. They say a lot of things that a lot of people professionally disagree with. A lot of people think they're overrated, but people love watching them fight, and people know they show up to fight. That's kind of what Maniakes is, but you know, if he was even a better fighter. Like, he wins a lot. Almost every single time he was on the battlefield, he won. And people in court, political, they didn't have the military prowess or abilities that he did, but they came either from wealth or they came from a powerful position, a powerful title. And he didn't get along with them very well. You know, he would rub most of them the wrong way. And probably because, you know, he understood that discipline and training, with the way he was brought up, and experience and actually fighting for something is what got it for you. He, personally, I believe most people like that don't like people who have things given to them rather than having to work to earn them. And, you know, that's just a little bit of trying to get into the mind of the soldier. The other thing that I wanted to point out was that he would not necessarily always mouth his opinion about something in certain situations. One example of this would be after the campaign was fought against the Muslims in the 1038. William, not William Longsword, but another William who had come with him on that campaign, started saying that he felt that the Franks who came with them, the Gauls, you know, he was calling them barbarians basically, they were the Normans, were overrated, that they barely did anything in the fighting, they weren't very effective soldiers. George didn't say anything. Now, he wound up making another decision that led to some consequences, but he understood that he was able to control the situation with the decisions he was making. He wound up not paying the Normans their money. And this would seem foolish to a lot of people, like, why would you not pay them? Because now they could turn against you. But he knew what his troops were capable of, he knew what the Normans were capable of, and he knew he had the upper hand. So, while it does look like a foolish decision on paper, and somebody who doesn't understand combat would say, well, that's stupid for him not to pay them off, because now they could turn against him, he more than likely expected that, but he also knew he could handle them if they did so. So, I believe he was a very, very calculated person. He would take not necessarily risks. To the outside or someone who lacks the experience, it would look like a risk or even look like a calculated risk, which is usually okay. But to him, it was no risk because he was often the smartest man in the room. All right, folks, thanks for watching. Next time, we're going to dive into him piece by piece, break down what he was. I'm going to do a lot more research on him. So next time, we can hopefully have some more to talk about. We're going to be diving into each and every one of his battles and looking at them through his eyes, through the eyes of his opponents. And we're also going to try to see what he learned from each engagement that he was involved in. If you'd like to see more on him, please comment down below. And Owain, I cannot say the dude's name. Owain Glinder's podcast is coming up. Thank you. I have a subscriber out there who said they're going to try to help me speak Welsh, so I'll be saying you guys' name properly, hopefully very soon. And more's coming on the Welsh, more coming on Henry II. We're also going to head back to Ireland and look at the warriors there. Lots of interesting kings and lots of interesting people to dive into.